St Paul's, how posh, cup of tea and shortcake biscuit, la-di-da.
Yeah, we heard from them this morning that there is an impact on the donations they're having, which has been unavoidable because things have been unpredictable out here. We're getting organised. Our relationship with the church are very productive. We're in discussion with them on a day-to-day basis, and we are going to do what we can to help them make up that shortfall. Basically.
How long will you be here? Where will you go from here?
Oh, well, it's partly. We're happy to be here as long as St Paul's are happy for us to be here. We're working cooperatively with them, stumbling over my words, and should they be happy to stay there, for us to stay, then we're happy to stay. I think people are quite determined to stay for as long as we can, really.
So Chris Knight, you are a retired lecturer of anthropology.
Yes.
And you've been on the protests for how long?
Pretty much since it started, but not staying here all the time. But we were here on Saturday evening when we put up the big marquee and stuff.
And you were with
Camilla.
And you're a serving lecturer, aren't you?
I am actually at work, yes.
Could you just show me your tent?
This is our tent. We've just managed to put it up.
And what facilities does it have inside it?
We have some quite comfy mattresses, or at least bubble mattresses, which some campers who've been here for a few days have been eyeing with some envious.
Where do you wash and stuff?
We have yet to find out, actually. We've just arrived, so we're going to ask for a camp tour as soon as.
Oh, I see. So have you been here then?
We've been here during the day, but not. This is the first night we've stayed here. Yeah.
Did you go out and buy a tent to take?
No, we already had one actually, because we're shall we say this or not?
I can tell you, the last time we used that tent actually was camping in Hyde Park after the March the 26th TUC rally, because we set up a little camp in Hyde Park. And previously we have camped on Parliament Square in Democracy Village. So we are old hands.
It's been peaceful. Until now, the clergy here have been very supportive of the protest. But the Dean and Chapter of St Paul's Cathedral have just issued the following statement. The cathedral has managed so far to remain open on a reduced basis. The increased nature and scale of the protest camp is such that to act safely and responsibly, the cathedral must now review the extent to which it can remain open for the many thousands coming this week as worshippers, visitors and in school parties. Is it now time for the protest camp to leave? The consequences of a decision to close St Paul's cannot be taken lightly. In other words, possibly for the first time, certainly in its modern history, St Paul's might have to close its door to worship. Naomi, the cathedral have said now that, I've asked the question is whether it's time for you to move on, and they're saying that they might have to close.
I don't think that is what they're saying. If you read the statement, what the statement says is that the presence of the camp here, which of course they hadn't expected, is leading them to think about how they can continue their normal activities. We have a good relationship with St Paul's, and we met them today and had a very constructive meeting, and we are working proactively to address their concerns. It is not our intention there should be any disturbance to the normal running of the cathedral, and we are working hard on facilitating them as far as we possibly can. We're very mindful of the responsibility we bear to be good neighbours, and we are also working with them to ensure that we're working proactively on ideas to ensure that their shortfall is made up.
Hours after the meeting decided to form the ramble of tents into a city, this is the result, a much more orderly sight at the cathedral, where now the sun is shining, the freezing biting winds have gone, for the time being until tonight, and there's a jovial atmosphere. But behind the scenes things are not so happy. Everybody's been affected, said a source at the cathedral. When I asked what might bring it to a resolution, the source looked quiet, puzzled for a moment, and then said, maybe an earthquake. The catering arrangements are pretty impressive. Just sorry I've eaten lunch actually. You can see here how neatly the tents have now been arranged and how there are pretty safe walkways between them all, although I did just fall over someone trying to get to this point. These people are waiting for a service this afternoon at the Merchant Taylors School, The boys are going in through a side entrance. One of them said to me, "It's empty, isn't it? I guess they've gone to work in the city." Isn't that the irony of the situation? And another one said he's looking forward to Lord Mayor's Day. He said the mayor will come in his golden coach and with his livery and just cut a swathe right through the middle of them. There's a prayer tent. All faiths and none welcome. Free. Used to chill and be blessed, it says. I wonder why they don't use this much bigger prayer space right next door. Inside, the prayer space is completely empty. Hi Phil, I understand you've been having a few challenges.
Yes, we have. I guess the biggest one was when the fire brigade came to St Paul's and said that essentially the camp that's sitting on their doorstep is breaching certain health and safety regulations and fire regulations. So unless you do X, X, X and X, then we're going to close you down.
Opposite Starbucks is their own Starbucks, the occupation library. Here you can pick up titles such as Psychic Dictatorship in the USA and The Riot of Stupid Issue.
Yeah, I do think that drink, drugs and noise is becoming an issue, and I talked to a lot of people that are very frustrated at not getting sleep. I do think it can probably be very hard to enforce a ban on alcohol or drugs, but I do think we need to think about it and maybe even just have a time where we really say, okay, the camp is quietening down now, people want to sleep, and that there's a feeling for that, so that everyone in the camp actually can go up to people and say respectfully, listen, it's now time to kind of sleep a bit, take it somewhere else. There's lots of places in London to party. There's not many places to have political discussions and to do activist stuff.
Alcohol's a great thing, but therefore it is not my place to discuss what people should and shouldn't do in their tents. Okay, publicly is one thing, but in your tent is your house. If people are going to 9 to 5 jobs from here and they're working their arses off to support this camp and to keep the kitchen going and something like that, I'm not gonna, it's their home. Their home is their home. They can do what they want. In the real life situation, if you're in your home and you want to give a beer to a 14-year-old child, that's completely legal.
Some people's freedom is other people's exclusion. And in terms of what happens in your tent, the walls are very thin. It's not a house with bricks and mortar. And if people are noisy in a tent a few inches from somebody, they still can't sleep. I think
the police barricaded out. At least that's how it looks from here. Actually, of course, they're not really, but they are not allowed to act while the cathedral still allows the protesters to stay. Only if the cathedral was to say the protesters must go, that they could then look at legality in terms of alcohol consumption and other property occupation issues. The Dean and chapter have been nice to the protesters so far, and this defacement on the chapter house door is their reward.
The Dean was supposed to be in the United States right now, but had to postpone that.
It seems a long time since the protesters arrived here at the cathedral last weekend. I have written an open letter to the protesters this afternoon, advising them that we have no lawful alternative but to close St Paul's Cathedral under sea in the open letter. I am asking the protesters to recognise the huge issues facing us at this time. I'm asking them to leave the vicinity of the building so that the cathedral can reopen as soon. It's a very difficult decision to make, but it's a decision over which we have no control. This is a legal decision made on the back of advice given to us by their cause. I think it's very important indeed for the Church to be seen to be enabling the debate about global.
You're aware that the decision today will render the cathedral vulnerable to criticism from people who feel that you should be allowing these people to stay for as long as they want.
Yes, and just as people have also criticised us for not getting rid of them immediately. There are people out there who will be on every possible side that there is. Quite clearly a chapter is about a group of people coming to a common mind, and that has always been the way in which I've directed the chapters over which I've presided as Dean. But also I've taken the advice of our employees and our external advisors, because no chapter can function without that help from outside.
And what about the bishop? Has he been involved at all?
I've told the bishop about where we are, but as you will well know, cathedrals are bodies corporate, and the buck stops with us as Dean and Chapter.
Are there any Bible passages that come to mind?
Not at the moment, not at 3:30 on a Friday afternoon.
No. And what would be your message now to the protesters and to their supporters?
My message to the protesters would be quite simple. Please read my letter, and if you want a quote, read Mark, learn and inwardly digest it.
The Reverend Sally Hitchener, I'm curate in Ealing.
And Sally, what's brought you here today to support?
Well, I heard about it over Twitter, and really my heart just sank. It's so incredibly sad that this cathedral had to close. I don't know much about the politics. I'm not here directly to support the protests, but I was ordained here a couple of years ago, and I come here regularly to pray. And I love the fact that this is such a focal point for faith in London, and that so many people pray here every day, and I didn't want that to stop.
Do you understand why it's had to close?
I don't understand all the details. I understand it's a very difficult financial situation. I have sympathies for them in their decision making. It's a very hard decision to make.
And you've prayed this evening with people who came for Evensong and couldn't go in?
No, we prayed with the protesters and the people who couldn't go to Evensong. So I asked, and they very graciously let me say the Lord's Prayer over the microphone. So it was a good opportunity, I think, to be here praying with the people, which for me is the heart of Anglicanism.